Okay, we are now out of executive session. For the record, there was no action taken. Are we back on the recording?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you. So we will now move on to agenda item E9, board appointments. And I have one board appointment this evening, and that is request that we appoint Joe Alvarez to the Housing Authority Board. Joe's agreed to serve on the board, and we actually have this position, and we have one other one that we're still trying to fill for the Housing Authority. That's for the Grand Oaks property on West Grand. And that's part of the HUD requirements. That's part of the federal requirements that there be a Housing Authority Board that is appointed and managed by the city. So I would put forward Joe Alvarez's name for the Housing Authority Board. Would somebody care to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Make that
Councilman Gehring moves. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Councilman McCarty seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, Joe Alvarez is hereby appointed to the Housing Authority Board. And last item is City Administrator's Report. Mr. Stiles?
Okay, I got quite a bit today. We've been real busy on the utility side. One of the things we need to be aware of is that our contract with KDHE to purchase raw water from Marion Reservoir will be expiring at the end of the year. So we had a 40-year contract with them, and it was a fixed rate contract. Right now, we spend about $15,000 a year on the raw water. What they're proposing and what they've been doing for everybody else is a variable rate contract. So to give you an idea of where our water rate has been versus what the actual market rate is, they were saying to me on the phone, and it's about 460% higher on the market right now than it is from what we've got. So we're going to see a raw water cost jump up to almost $70,000 versus the 15 we pay now. I don't know that we're going to have a lot of negotiation room with them on this. It's sort of they're the only game in town unless you want to go drill some wells. So it's a situation where we're just going to need to be aware of that. We've been looking at rates anyway for capital and operational things. We'll have to factor that in as well. So when we bring that conversation up, we'll have to keep in mind the contract with KDHE. More on the water projects. Morgan and I have been meeting with the engineers from EBH, talking about some of the potential water projects. We finished our last big project, and we approved the final payout at the last meeting. And we were about $500,000 under the anticipated level. And so the way that was structured initially was that they were replacing some debt service with the previous project. And so theoretically, there's $500,000 worth of projects you could do and still have the adequate debt service in the budget from keeping that flat. So what we did was we have to, if we're going to look at doing something with KDHE, you have to submit a pre-application. It's completely non-binding, but it gets you in line to apply for those funds should you choose to do so. So I had EBH put us in an application, a pre-application for that revolving loan fund, with the understanding that we would have to, make it, if we were to do anything further, we would have to make some action on that. So I'm looking at the debt service. I want to talk a little bit with more with Greg Varnberg and see kind of where we're at with that and see if that's even a possibility. We have no obligation to do anything at this time, but I just wanted to make sure that we were in line in case something did happen and we wanted to. And interest rates are super low right now, so it's probably not a bad idea to just jump in that line. KPP electric meters. So the board of KPP approved moving forward with the financing package that includes our meter upgrades. The number we submitted to them was $187,530. That, the terms aren't completely finished, but they're looking at a 10-year payback or a 10-year term on those. Market rate right now is somewhere between 1% and 3%, so it's pretty good. KPP will be able to get a much better rate than or at least a more competitive rate with a bigger bond issue than we would be able to get on the market anyway. So from that perspective, I'm giving it an anticipated monthly fee of a $2,000 on our portion of the power that we buy from KPP. So once they get to the point where they're going to sell the bonds, they'll be presenting a resolution to us to adopt that would outline all the terms, and that would be kind of the binder in order to keep us on to allow us to pay them back on that. Mark Chesney from KPP, the executive director, he'll be here at our next meeting just to give updates on KPP and touch base. I'm not sure if they'll have the bond stuff. I don't think they'll have that bond stuff done at that point, but he will probably tell us a little bit about that and give us an update on what KPP is doing right now. So sewer projects, we met with EBH on the wastewater side, and we met with them in Barkman Honey on the 21st of January. Having some issues handling Barkman's waste, and we need to look at how we do that. Right now, they truck some of the waste and washout down to our wastewater plant. We have an old tank that was supposed to be demolished when they switched over the plant in 2008 from a mechanical to the lagoons. They dump into that tank right now, and it's basically completely shot. It can hold roughly 40% of its capacity because it has so many leaks in it at the top. So what we've been doing is taking it there and then metering it into our system, which helps us kind of control how the process works. We're needing to do some other things with that because it's creating a sludge buildup in the lagoons, and it creates that smell issue anytime it turns over. So we have some possible solutions, and we wanted to talk with Barkman about it because what we would ask them to do is to pay a portion of that and the capital expense piece, because they represent 40% of our load in our lagoons. So what we're actually processing, but they represent less than 1% of our flow. So what they're sending us is really concentrated stuff. So we're working with them on that, trying to figure out the best way to handle those issues. And once we have a good solution, we'll bring that back to the council. We also are trying to handle an issue with I&I, which is infiltration of rainwater into our system. So anytime we get a large rain event in Hillsboro, we have an inundation of our south lift station. And so anytime that overtops the lift station with too much flow, it goes onto the ground, and you have an issue with KDHE because you broke containment. So we've been working with them. They put us under an order to do a study with that, and so we've completed that. But what we think is happening, because we can't find the amount of flow in the system from holes or different things within the system, we've patched a lot of lines, we've done a lot of lining. We think it's foundation drains and sump pumps, which are connected to the sanitary sewer. That's a really tough problem because before 1980, in the 1980s, those became illegal based on the building code. But before that, a lot of homes that were built in town would be able to do that, and we wouldn't know that they exist, especially if they bypassed tying it in the basement where we would smoke test it. We could find them, but a lot of them we haven't been able to find. We know that there's a bunch of them over in one of the neighborhoods kind of by Tabor, because we've had situations where they've had to have their sewer lines replaced and dug it up, and they found different taps and crosses and different things that tie into the sewer line from foundation drains. And we can make them fix it at that time, but short of going in and tearing up everybody's lawn of a house of a certain age, it really becomes an overwhelming problem. So we're trying to figure out the best way to handle that. And so EBH it's got a few ideas and submitted their report to KDHE. And another thing we have to think about with KDHE on the sewer side, we've got regulations on nitrate, phosphorus, and ammonia discharge levels that should be coming in on our next round for permit. So they've got a couple options for us to look at how we can handle those levels too. It gets a little bit overwhelming. There's a lot of information with regard to the wastewater side, but we'll keep you apprised of all that. And if you want a page turner, I can give you the reports from KDHE on that. And if you have problems sleeping, you won't after you get into those. Fiber optic project. So we talked with TCW on the 28th about the progress. They're a little behind where they were hoping to be. They're still looking at sometime in late spring, early summer for a completion date to get out of town. They've run into some weather lately, but I think they've had just kind of a confluence of issues that have made it go a little less smooth than they wanted to. The good news is they're going to start turning on areas in town. They're looking sometime in March, April to start doing that, kind of pods at a time. But they're also going to be starting to provide regular updates to the public again in February. So they're putting that information out there. They're re-engaging with the public to make sure that they manage expectations and can make sure all that stuff happens in a timely way. The countryside feed expansion, so we got their application. We got a chunk of it on the 29th. We got the rest of it today, so we're going to begin processing that, and we'll bring you that information as it comes forward and gets processed, and we'll work on the based on the adopted policy. The EMS building, the 25th, January 25th County Commission meeting, the commission voted to move forward with a proposal to sell them some land. I talked with Travis Parmalee, who's the EMS director today. We're going to be meeting with him on Friday to kind of outline what that looks like, what he has in mind. And there was some discussion at the commission level that they may be interested in some additional land or a little bit different configuration than what we had proposed at the 0.33, a third of an acre that we had originally proposed. So we're going to work with them on that and make sure we can move forward. Health insurance model. I'm working on some alternative health insurance models. One of the things that drives me nuts about how we do insurance now, and this is if you have a fully funded plan, how it works anyway, is you pay a lot of money to Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and they do a lot of advertising, they do a lot of different things, but you don't necessarily see as much bang for your buck. It's not just Blue Cross, it's pretty much any insurance company. So there's a couple different ways we can look at doing that. We've had success in the past with a different kind of approach to it that keeps the coverage. It can actually improve coverage for employees and keep the cost reasonable to them and to us. Hopefully save some money. So we'll have to bring any of those changes to you guys, obviously. We renew for July 1st, so we start seeing that information roll in late March, early April. So we'll keep you apprised of that and see if we can figure out a model that helps us control costs, save money, and improve service. So Community Plaza, the steering group met on the 28th, and we're getting really close to finishing the proposed design. It's pretty cool. I have to say, I think it's probably one of the cooler designs I've ever seen for a park. We're going to get cost estimates hammered down. We're looking at kind of how that thing could be phased. I'm pretty confident we can get the splash pad portion of the project done either this year or next, however the construction schedule. I'm hoping to get it done this year. If we do get it done this year, it's probably going to be a real short spray park season because I'm not sure when we have to turn it off. But that's the idea. I think it's a great design, and I'm pretty excited about sharing it with the community when we get it done. So it's moving forward. I think it's going to be a great addition to the community. So that is all I had, Mayor. I hope I didn't bore anybody to tears.
No, there's a lot going on, and appreciate the thorough report. Any questions from the council? Okay, is there any other business that needs to come before the council? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Yeah.